What's up, comic book fans? Anchorpete here with my nice water-stained shirt. And over there with a much cooler shirt is my boy, Mr. Brian Hair. Brian, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, Pete. And let me just get this out of the way now to show off this awesome shirt.
Just get this out of the way.
Leonardo,
look at that
sexiness. The shredding.
Yes.
Like the shining.
Is there anything better in our life than a company that makes t-shirts that combine one idea with another idea and put them together?
Wait, what was the first part of that? I didn't hear it.
Oh, shit. I said, is there anything better in life than a company that combines one idea and another on a shirt?
To crush your enemies and see them driven before you?
Yes, that too. I'm sure there's some kind of fucking shirt with that, with like Conan and Muppets together and stuff too.
Hey, if not, we're going to make that stat now.
Let's go. We need some merchandise because we are blowing up. Brian, tonight, we are actually on Twitch too.
Oh, shit.
Yes. Yes. Us middle-aged men with our day jobs and children, we are now on Twitch. I don't even know what the fuck is going on with that, but we'll see. So we're available on a podcast. We have Twitch, and we're streaming on Twitter, and we're here tonight on YouTube. So, Brian, it is time for us to talk about the finale of Moon Knight and also Young Justice, episode 21 of season 4. So, you ready to jump into this?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So, Young Justice, just so you guys know, we are huge Young Justice fans. Whenever it is on, it is the first thing that we cover. And so, Young Justice is up to season 4, which is called Phantoms. And episode 21 was entitled Odyssey of Death, which I'm assuming was like a little play on the Cosmic Odyssey, which was like a DC New Gods kind of miniseries back in the 90s, I think. So, you ready for this, Brian? Here's first question.
Okay.
Why was the battle sequence in this episode 10 times as exciting as the battle in the finale of Moon Knight?
Because it was a Green Lantern versus Kryptonian.
Yes. But it wasn't just that.
Yeah, it was more than that, but that was the centerpiece of it, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you had the Foragers against the that cube, and you had the sequence with McGann's brother.
Just remember, it always sounds like he's saying "fuck" in his name. Ma'alfa'ak. Yes.
He had the sequence with Rocket and Orion, which kind of had some parallels to Rocket and how she deals with her son, which it was kind of almost weird and a little heavy-handed, but I liked it.
Yeah, ditto.
And then what was the other part? There was another part of the fight too. Then there had to have been.
So Jay Garrick's in there, and he gets kind of frozen by that box at first, and then they also kind of like awaken this creature within the.
Oh my God, the Promethean! How could I forget the Promethean?
Well, it was this pretty elaborate kind of sequence, right? It's this big ass battle. It would have clearly been a whole issue of a comic book, and it's kind of like all the things in the toy box. You have some New Gods, you have Green Lanterns, you have a Kryptonian. What else you got? You have Martian, right? Yeah. So it's just a smorgasbord of like fun things to kind of play with and see how they kind of bounce off each other. But one of the things I saw when I was looking at one of the recaps was that a person who had written a summary of it felt that Rocket didn't really get the justice, pun intended, that the other team members got in the last few story arcs.
I will agree with that statement. She didn't get the kind of spotlight or recognition as the other characters, but at the same time, I think this might have been my favorite arc that was there, because I like when there's a B story there. I even felt like there was a C story in these at some points, with like Beast Boy and stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't get that in this episode.
No.
But yeah, you had that. You had the stuff with the Phantom Zone projector. You had the stuff with Zatanna. You had the stuff in the Phantom Zone. I like when there's a lot of things going on and they all connect together somehow. And
yes,
the first few arcs felt very, very isolated, and this one didn't. And this one reminded me more of past Young Justice seasons, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the Beast Boy arc not being in this particular episode. They just basically replaced that with the Zatanna Dr. Fate little plot there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with you that I liked all the different things that were going on, but it had this just great action sequence. And that's one of the things that I think they have had in each one of these story arcs. There's been a battle, but I think this one had the best battle. Would you agree? Or
Yeah, totally agree. Well, I don't know. It was very good, but I also really appreciated the fight near the end of the Artemis arc, especially the spot where everything went black and you just saw the glimpses of everybody popping up.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That was pretty long ago, like in our lives, right? Like,
yeah, because that was the first half of the season, and that was, December, November, probably.
just the amount of like shit in the world that's happened since then. Like, someone tweeted today that basically it's like every week there's some kind of new like disturbing world event that happens, and it's like we've had like 10 of those since that story arc.
Yeah.
Well, we won't get political on our show, but we can kind of go back to Rocket for a second. So every character, they've kind of shown their corner of the universe, whether it's Zatanna and all the magic users, or like Kaldor, Aquaman, and like the underwater stuff. With Rocket, we haven't really seen too much of her stuff because it's the whole Milestone universe that got folded into the DC universe. And there was pretty much none of that whatsoever. They had her boyfriend and her kid, which are in the comics, the Milestone comics, but that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Icon in the past as well. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's some there's two ways to look at it. Maybe it's just either there's not as much to draw from, and it's not as well known.
Yeah.
So I mean, and they feel like they can place the character anywhere, and most viewers wouldn't know the difference if it's what it's touching upon.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's some kind of legal issue. Like maybe they have the character rights, but not any, like much of the backstory rights or anything like that.
Yeah. I think I like both of those theories. I think that there might even be a third one, which is that there just isn't you kind of mentioned it though. You said that like there's maybe not necessarily as much of a knowledge about the Milestone characters. Because like with Milestone, it was just like the Marvel Ultimate Universe where they had like a whole bunch of ongoing books and it was around for a couple of years. But it hasn't been around for a while. They've kind of brought it back in DC, but the New Gods, even as obscure as they are still way more well-known than any of the Milestone characters.
Yeah, the New Gods definitely, they've popped up in other mediums, and they're always, popping up in various DC storylines throughout the years. But, I mean, I don't think I've ever read a Milestone story directly,
Yeah. Yeah, and I got to say that they're actually really fucking awesome. I think I mentioned this before, but like there's a team called Blood Syndicate that was really cool. I had a bunch of their books, and there was Icon, and then there's Hardware, which is like a African American Iron Man kind of character. And a couple of them are written by Dwayne McDuffie, who has also written many. Yeah. He wrote a lot of the the Timverse Justice League cartoons and stories like that. And then of course there's Static, right? And then sometimes he's called Static Shock, or the show was called Static Shock. But that's a Milestone character too.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's see. We already kind of addressed that one. Did you? So let's jump over to Superboy real quick then. Sure. Did you think that Superboy was going to escape when they opened up that portal to the Phantom Zone?
Well, I thought they were going to open it up and everybody was going to come pouring through, and that was going to be what the next story was going to be about. But I guess that would make for too big of a battle at the time, and I think we might have some more deaths than just the one if that happened.
Yeah.
So it was surprising that no one made it through. I still think there's going to be some way to get them out of there. I mean, obviously there has to be, but I think the most interesting thing about that whole scenario was that as Druzad is being pulled through and Connor tries to grab him, he says, "Wait a minute. You weren't incarcerated. The projector's not recognizing you." And I wonder what that is going to mean later on. It feels like that was like a huge revelation to him, and I don't quite know why yet.
Right. Yeah, that's gonna potentially put Superboy in a lot of trouble. And the thing is, too, is that Saturn Girl and Chameleon Boy showed up in the bioship, and Saturn Girl was kind of able to wake up Shadow Lass, right?
Phantom Lass.
Phantom Lass, right? There is like a Shadow Girl too, but right. Phantom Lass, and so like he'll be, I guess, like outnumbered by these Kryptonians, but he'll have at least one ally now. So that's probably going to be a big focus of the next arc. And then you're assuming that the next arc, when Zatanna says we're going to need a detective, you think that's basically just saying, here comes Nightwing, right?
Well, I'm torn by that because she said we need a detective. So my brain went to, okay, this is the Nightwing arc. I'm expecting a Nightwing arc, but really, it probably means Batman.
Right. Well, yeah,
or
of course.
Maybe like on the like, oh, Batman's off doing something and he can't help. So here's Detective Chimp.
Right. That is kind of the whole thing. It would be kind of funny if she's like, we need a detective, and then they cut to the next episode and you think like she's going to Gotham to get Batman, but then it's Detective Chimp.
Yeah. But I think we have to have a Nightwing arc. That like there's been no Nightwing in the season whatsoever. I mean, very little. But we need a full Nightwing arc.
Hell yeah. Have they ever shown Detective Chimp on this show?
I was trying to think of that, and I don't remember. I guess I should look that up.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was digging that. I was actually kind of surprised that no one got out of the Phantom Zone at all. And then when the Phantom Zone projector got destroyed, I was like, oh shit, like what's gonna happen now?
Didn't they mention there's another one somewhere else though? But it just wasn't as accessible. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably.
Although I can't think of many scenarios where something will be more inaccessible than Metron's fucking pocket dimension.
Right. His own separate dimension. Yeah. Like, oh man, it's even harder to get than that. Yeah, I agree. That it has its own little baby sun eater, you know. But so one of the things I liked about that whole battle, though, is that in the previous episode they played up the fact that Tamar Ray was the guardian of the Kryptonian sector, right? And that he saw Krypton get destroyed, and he even knew Superman's father and uncle. And it was kind of cool because he essentially had a chance to redeem himself. Did you think he was gonna die when he was like, never again, and he started to like funnel?
The second he said that, I knew that back shield was getting broken and he was gonna get torn a new one.
What I really liked about that part was it reminded me of like Infinite Crisis? Yeah, because it's Infinite Crisis because it's not Crisis on Infinite Earth. Infinite Crisis, when you had Superboy Prime just like fighting Titans and stuff, and then he would fight Green Lanterns, and like when Lor-Zod was fighting them, that reminded me of that a lot.
Yeah.
And when he like just blasted his friggin' eye beams and it went like through the bubble, and then he shot Tomar Ray, I was like, oh man, that was awesome.
Thematically, I think that scene worked really well with that, but at the same time, all I can think of was logically, like, okay, so he diverted some power to watch his back, but he had to take it away to contain the Promethean blast. But he died. So, like, how is he continuing that? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
That was like
I get the thematic meaning of his sacrifice and all that, but logically, it seems a little weird and maybe a little lazy writing.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. He's essentially like dead, but it's still doing the job of the construct. Yeah. I get it. The Promethean was interesting. I actually don't remember seeing that in any kind of DC comics, but it was interesting to me because it reminded me of like the Celestial sleeping in the ground, like in the Eternals movie. And I know that like Celestials are created by Jack Kirby, New Gods are created by Jack Kirby. There's probably a Promethean in the New Gods comic. So that must be like a concept that he liked a lot.
Yeah, I mean the massive amounts of similarities between the Eternals and the New Gods already. I mean, I said it's a safe bet.
Yeah, Jack Kirby, he just was like this like fucking like endless source of imagination and crazy ideas, out there ideas. I know that you like video games a lot. Are you like familiar with Warcraft lore at all or no?
A little. I played the first 3 Warcrafts, but I never played Warcraft. It's not Warcraft Online. What the hell are they called? A World of Warcraft. Never played WoW.
Well, I know that like with the lore with that, there's the idea that like there's a god essentially, or like a baby god within a planet too. That's kind of a thing that's in a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, is like there's like a thing living inside the planet, you know? And
Hey,
even in our beloved
use that.
exactly. I was just about to say that. Like even in our beloved Transformers, the new idea is that like Unicron is in Earth.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. So I was going to ask you though. Do you think that was implying that there was a Promethean in Krypton, and that maybe that destroyed Krypton?
No, because they made reference to that in general. The Kryptonians just screwed up, and ruined the planet before. I mean, even if it wasn't as prominent in this thing, and so many other continuities, they basically said, "We did this, and it's our fault, and we couldn't save it." So I mean, I guess it's not beyond reason that a Promethean couldn't have been involved. I guess maybe that reinforces the kind of potential utopia that Krypton might have been, or suggested to have been. So there was no fault on their end, and it was something they couldn't control, like literally a giant freaking thing.
A giant lava thing with like lava coming out of its eye sockets and mouth, and just shoots fucking fire out of its mouth. Yeah. The only thing I could see that could like kind of tie it together and work with what you're saying is the continuity, and like this idea is like they often say that they like drilled too deep, or they were messing with the environment. It's like, what if they drilled too deep and they like woke this thing up and then it destroyed the planet?
Yeah, that could totally work. Yeah.
So yeah. So let's see.
Before we move on, Detective Chimp has not been on the show, but he's been referenced. He was referenced by Beast Boy, saying he could do an impression of him.
Oh, okay. All right. That's perfect. Good. So maybe he will show up in this next one. All right. So I got 2 more questions for you. Were you expecting Forager to become a Green Lantern?
No, I was not. And I even would have picked the Earth Forager that from the previous season as the candidate rather than this newer Forager.
Yeah.
But that was surprising. I guess I honestly I thought it was going to go to Rocket, because it seemed like that would have been giving her more of the spotlight. And I was a little surprised it went to Forager.
Yeah. It was cool. I mean, I thought it was really good storytelling. Like so many things in previous episodes in this arc set up what essentially happened in this arc. Like a lot of things like kind of paid off, and you introduce her in like the first episode, and there's this little plot where they steal this device, this new god device. And then like you think she's just sort of this funny character, and maybe she's a sort of love interest for Forager, but then all of a sudden she's a Green Lantern, and it just gives this great arc for the Forager that we know. I just think it was like really well done. And even the post-credit scene where Forager is reciting Shakespeare. I just thought that was like so well done. It's just like a step above other shows.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I did like that change, and I liked that it was unexpected, and I did appreciate the, it seemed like you'd think that she's off to be a Green Lantern, and that's the kind of the end for them. But they even mentioned attempting a long distance relationship.
Yes,
over William Shakespeare.
Yes.
So
yes. I was going to say some kind of perverted Forager thing, because I've been doing that every episode, but I just don't got it in me tonight. I'm just so excited about talking about this show and Moon Knight, man. I got one more question for Young Justice.
Okay.
What do you think is going to happen now with Lord Zod, the fact that he's on the bioship, and you got Impulse on, or I guess he's Kid Flash now, but like Kid Flash and Saturn Girl and Chameleon Boy, they're all on the ship. Like, what the hell's going to happen with them?
I feel like he's gonna go back to. Was he sent by Darkseid, or was he sent by Vandal Savage? I don't even remember now.
Darkseid.
Yeah, I think they're gonna go back to Darkseid, I think, and then figure something out. And Darkseid is gonna be like, "I know where another Phantom Projector is."
That's an amazing impersonation.
Thank you. That's gonna be that. And I mean, we have to get Connor out of the Phantom Zone. It can't resolve with them all stuck there. So I still think that Drew Zod's going to come out somehow.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited. That would be really cool if they went to Apocalypse and they were sort of prisoners there because of him. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah. And the only other last thing I would have to say about the whole we need a detective line is that why didn't they do that in the first place?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And like, why were they assuming that he was not dead?
Well, that's what Madame Xanadu was doing in the beginning of the episode. I think they were looking for his like soul to crossing over, and they couldn't find it. So that's how they know he wasn't dead or he was somewhere else or something like that. So maybe they really did just accept that he was dead because it was a kryptonite explosion.
Yeah,
and who's getting out of that. So I don't know. I guess there was no one really there either to investigate except for Superman. I could see them just accepting the loss and moving on rather than beating a dead horse and trying to investigate it without a detective amongst their ranks.
Oh, I like how you stuck the detective in there. Yeah, and it's very possible. I'll be honest, I don't actually like look at all the dates very closely when the dates come onto the screen. And like maybe that Madame Xanadu scene was like significantly earlier in time than like what was happening at the end of the episode.
Well, she said she's been searching for weeks or months or something like that for an extended period of time. So yeah, I don't remember when that started. But I think everything was in August in this episode. So
yeah. Well, what I'd like to say to people, because we actually have never gotten a Young Justice comment on our channel. We got a bunch of comments from people that were into Raised by Wolves, and that's another HBO Max show. We've gotten some people that have talked about Peacemaker. That's another HBO Max show. And Young Justice is an HBO Max show, but we've never gotten comments from people, even though we love the show very much. We figure there's got to be some Young Justice fans checking us out. If you guys are Young Justice fans, leave us a comment. Let us know what arc you've liked the best for this season, for season 4 so far. And what do you think is coming up with the next arc? So with that being said, my friend, are you ready to talk about Moon Knight?
Yeah, let's do it.
Nice. Okay. So the title for episode 6 was called Episode 6. And that seems like they were like trying to not reveal.
No, there was something. Wasn't
it episode 6?
No, I think it was called. Wasn't it called Gods and Monsters?
Oh fuck! What the hell? Now I gotta look this shit up. I thought it was just called episode 6.
Well, maybe they did that to hide it and they just didn't update it.
Okay. All right. Well,
Gods and Monsters, yeah.
Gods and Monsters. Okay. I thought that they were doing episode 6 because they were trying to like keep something from being revealed, but I felt like there was nothing in this episode that was like sort of unexpected, except for the thing that's in the post-credit scene. And if you are a fan of Moon Knight, that's not any kind of big shocking reveal.
Yeah, they've been very heavy-handed hinting at that the entire show.
So were you like me, and were you sort of underwhelmed by this show?
Yes, 100%. I think I don't remember what week I asked you this question, but I asked, are we excited by the shows itself, or are we excited by the larger connection that it has to the MCU? And I think this show answers it. This is not connected in any way. We got one little mention of the ancestral plane and Black Panther. That's pretty much it.
Right.
And this was a completely standalone series. Now, it was pretty heavily speculated even a few episodes ago that this was a limited series, because I think something about how Marvel was petitioning for awards for both this and Hawkeye. They both have had it under limited series category. I know that someone noticed Marvel tweet out, check out the series finale of Moon Knight, and then quickly change it to season finale of Moon Knight.
Oh, okay.
Later on. So I kind of think I think if this is a standalone series, it's a lot more underwhelming. But if it has a chance to come back, that kind of increases its value a little bit to me.
Okay. I would agree with you on that too. Yeah, if there was a season 2, if they expanded upon it, especially if they were to like get rid of that idea of like the suit being this thing that like grows on him, and he was more like that street level Moon Knight fighting with his own kind of costume, like more Batman than like, I don't know, supernatural Iron Man. I would be way more on board for that.
I think the having the almost like Indiana Jones-ish aspect to the show was almost a detriment. It doesn't feel like the character to me. No. And I know he's obviously very tied to Egypt and the Egyptian gods, obviously, but I think I would have preferred a more street level story. Although maybe they just feel like they have enough of those with Daredevil and the Punisher, even though we don't know if those are canon or not.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. You and I had this kind of interesting conversation just, through Messenger or whatever, where we were talking about how there's so much speculation and that it's like a machine where we get these trailers and then there's just so many videos just like you and me of different people speculating what we're going to get. This means this means that, this is a clue for this. And that in itself seems to be more enjoyable for everybody, the speculation, than the actual product itself. And I feel like, I asked this question to you on Messenger, the things that all this is drawn from, like Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, and, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies and X-Men 2 and all that kind of stuff, the stuff that like when it came out, its existence itself was super exciting. And Lord of the Rings, right? Like, it is like the fan speculation. Do we expect something that's even more exciting than that?
Well, yeah. I mean, and my response to you in general was that back then with those properties and that time, in that time, it makes it sound like it's like ancient, but it's really not. Just the fact that we were getting those things at all, was incredible, and they were done with that level of detail and care and believability and all that. I mean, I do think they were more grounded, but I think just the stakes have just generally been raised since the Avengers.
Right.
Taking, essentially 3 different standard franchises and combining them into, well, I guess more than 3, but, combining several standalone movies into one big thing is huge. And it's just constantly been escalating since there. And at some point, you kind of got to roll it back a little bit because you can't keep getting bigger.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like you said, it's it's funny because it sounds like it's so long ago, but honestly, it kind of is, right? Because like Lord of the Rings, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, like the original X-Men movies, those are actually like 20-something years ago at this point. I know, we're fucking old. I know. And then you mentioned the MCU and Avengers and stuff, and I can't remember the date of Avengers, but I do know that Iron Man is 2008. So even
Avengers the MCU 2012, wasn't it?
Okay, so if it's 2012, then it's 10 years of the Avengers. But essentially, like, because Iron Man's 2008, it's like
May 4th, 2012.
Yeah. So it's 10 years since Avengers, and then like 14 years since Iron Man, right? Because it's 2008. I think I said it's 2008 like 7 times now. But
wait, is it 2008?
Yeah, it was 2008. Yeah, but so like this has been around. It's been like kind of in our minds, and we've all been just talking about it so much, and so we just anticipate so much, and we want so much from decades worth of comic books into these little 6-episode things or these 2-hour plus movies, and I think that we just get too excited about it, and then what ends up coming out is like something that seems underwhelming, but it just kind of tells a very straightforward kind of story.
Yeah, no, I mean, even though we're talking about a story with a person with multiple identities, and gods and, coming back from the dead and all this, it does feel very grounded in terms of like, what fan speculation was,
Right.
I think, in terms of that scaling of the threat levels and everything that has to go on and the collaborations and all that, comics are in a much different ball game there. They've had to escalate things for a lot longer, and I think maybe that's where this is coming from. Is that we have read these ridiculous concepts of ever increasing cosmic importance, battles in comic books, and we're just expecting the moon and more here.
Yeah, we're expecting everything but the kitchen sink, right? Like, because even with comics, with Marvel, for instance, it's been around since the 60s, like the Marvel universe. And so that's like 60 years of Marvel, right? Or more right there. And so, you just introduce like one villain at a time and they'd fight one villain and then there'd be like one kind of event. But, it just escalated over decades. Whereas here we expect like all the stuff jammed into these stories. And I think that people would be very disappointed if it was a 6-episode show and it was just a street level thing and he was just fighting one guy, But I think that would be, from a storytelling point of view, it would probably be the most interesting story. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was like a well done street level story.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not. It wasn't. It was still a fine show. Like it was still a serviceable show.
Yeah,
I stand by that. I don't think there's anything bad in the MCU.
Yeah,
but underwhelming is definitely a term I'd apply here.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say underwhelming because one of my questions is about how there's a giant fucking crocodile woman fighting a giant bird man. Right, and they're fighting like kaiju size in Egypt, in Cairo, right? And like I actually thought that was cool, like how they had the two battles going on at the same time.
Yeah, that was cool, and I think they clearly just completely blew their special effects budget on this episode.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because I watched the recap with Mr. Sunday on the Weekly Planet or whatever, and James, that's Mr. Sunday, and Mason, they were kind of joking about how what do you call it? Harrow looked like a rubbery guy kind of bouncing off of Moon Knight when they were fighting like on the pyramid, and it's true. It did kind of look a little cheesy, I thought. But do you feel like having a giant crocodile god, like that's like a little bit too much? Like it's going like a little too far?
I guess that didn't really faze me, to be honest.
No?
I guess I was more shocked that she was released. It's so late in the game, but still had like a decent amount of screen time, I'd say. Even though this was also a very short episode. I'm always wary of villains that pop up at the very end,
Right.
I like when they're developed and they have, I mean, I guess Amma did have goals here, clearly defined goals, but they were defined more so through Harrow. I guess it wasn't too much for me, but yeah.
She even had that line, that cliche line that's in so many of these, where she's like fighting Khonshu and she's like, we're very similar, you and I. Like almost in every one of these fucking things, the villain says to the hero, "You and I are not that different," And she even says that in this fight.
Yeah. I almost thought. I think they implied that there was some. I'm sorry. No, they did imply. They implied that there was an event at some point in the past. When Khonshu's helping Steven turn the moon back. He says, "I remember that night, however long ago," and I would have liked to have seen more about what that was supposed to be, what the connection between the two of them was, and if there was there or not, because it seemed like prior they were suggesting that they were familiar with each other and they knew each other, or maybe they were more than that. I don't know. But here it didn't quite seem like that. It seemed like they knew of each other only, and that was kind of it.
Right. It wasn't like a romance. It wasn't like they were like two deities together, like a sun and moon or something,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I liked her. I kind of felt like she looked a little cartoonish, and I know that's like expecting a lot to have like a giant alligator woman look as realistic as possible. It kind of took me out a little bit, but I like that they went all in at least. And I also had a question for you too. Do you think you would have liked it more if Harrow kind of had his own suit that was like he was like his own kind of version of Moon Knight, fighting Moon Knight?
Yes. Yeah, but again, that's probably more of the trope where the hero fights, is polar opposite in his origin story. Yeah. So I guess it was a little slightly different because I guess he was an Avatar at some point, and he was an Avatar now, but he just didn't get a fancy suit.
Yeah. What did you think of Layla? Is the wife, right?
Yeah.
What did you think of like her being Tao Wet's Avatar?
I definitely felt like I saw it coming. I didn't expect her to be the Avatar of Tao Wet or anything like that, but the several references to the Scarlet Scarab, on her ring in the mental hospital, and then she was wearing something. No, maybe that was the mental hospital that she had or it was a tattoo or something. I can't remember. God. And then the name, the Fauli name. So I felt it was coming, and I enjoyed it. And I think I had two general comments about it. Is one, did you get any like Darkhawk vibes from those wings?
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yeah. Like like this with the wings? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And then two, did you feel any similarities to Wonder Woman 84?
Yeah, because she's got those wings too, and she could use them to like hold up the blast. Yeah, I felt like that.
I had read that Mohammed Diab was the director, was critical of the Egyptian scenes in Wonder Woman 84, and I wonder if they kind of did some of those things in those brief scenes.
Yeah.
Despite that, especially the scene where she saves the little girl and says, "Are you an Egyptian superhero?" Like that felt like it was like sticking it to Wonder Woman.
Yes. And this show in itself had a lot of controversy in it because of like the kind of the references to Egypt, and then I know that they referenced something that happened in history where there was a massacre, and like there's one country that didn't acknowledge the fact like their part in the massacre. I know that like there was like backlash over this show, and one part that kind of stood out to me when they were in Egypt and those soldiers pulled them over. Harrow did that thing where he like judged them with the staff, and like all the soldiers died except for one guy, and I felt like that was sort of an overt message to you, like, oh, you're saying that like all these fucking Egyptian soldiers are corrupt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it seems a little odd. Like you have these guys that are following Harrow, that are willing to do whatever in the name of Amit, but the general population, there are so many bad people, that probably wouldn't think to resort to violence necessarily, but may still be a bad person.
Yeah. And I mean, like that, she just like sucked up all their souls and was eating them, and she was getting bigger too. Is pretty wild, I don't know. It was a lot for a 6-episode show, but in the end, there was no connection to other MCU things. Like I was thinking, come on, there's got to be that Thor, God and Love and Thunder connection there. They have to bring in Gore, but there's nothing like that.
Yeah, another thing I read about the show too is again from this is one of the producers. I can't remember his name. They said that in some early drafts, the very first scene had more of a connection to something else in the MCU, and the very last scene did.
Okay.
But they essentially decided to let let the fact that it wasn't connected be to define it better and have it stand out.
Okay. Yeah, and so we get the Jake Lockley introduction, and one thing I forgot to mention too was, did you like the idea that like Steven was essentially Mr. Knight, and then Mark was Moon Knight, and like they would switch back and forth? Did you like that or no?
Well, it's kind of like classic like buddy cop conflict, where they, they don't get along at first, and then they find their harmony and they work together really well, and everybody's happy at the end.
Right, that's a good way of putting it.
I guess the idea that each of those suits fit the personality is interesting. It's not from the comics, I don't think.
No.
I still find Steven to be kind of irritating, to be honest.
Sure, yeah.
Although I will say that seeing Mr. Knight like actually use the batons and like kick a bunch of ass was awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
But hearing later Gators, I'm like, oh my god,
Jesus.
And then I also have some general just questions about how they're completely unaware of Jake.
Yeah.
How Khonshu can use Jake to be his avatar without them knowing. Like,
right.
Clearly, well, there's a whole other question with that. The whole hospital scene that we saw starting in the 4th episode.
Yeah.
What exactly was that? Who was doing that? Was that Khonshu's attempt to control Mark and Steven? Like, is that what was going on when like Jake was taking over or something like that? I was really struggling to figure out that last scene where Khonshu frees Mark and Steven, and then they kind of flash into the hospital, the psych ward, and talk to Harrow, and then he's walking with the bloody footprints, and they're like, "Oh, you're not in on it." And I'm like, "What? No, what? Like, what was this whole thing? Like, why did this happen?"
Yes. Dude, I agree. It's very confusing. It kind of doesn't add up. It's strange. It's like the implication is that there's been this third personality as well. And at the very end, they do this little twist that I thought was unique in the sense that like Harrow stabbing Mark, and you're like, oh, well, how are they going to turn this around? And then he does the thing where he starts to glitch, and then he wakes up and he essentially has beaten all these bad guys, including Harrow. And so the implication is that Jake Lockley came to life and knocked them all out. Well, it's like, if Jake Lockley was there, how come like Khonshu just couldn't resurrect Jake Lockley and send him after Harrow's guys? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just a matter of why was he even dealing with Mark and Steven if he can somehow control when Jake pops up.
Right, exactly.
And then the other leap of logic that I have the hardest time swallowing is, earlier on we found out that the Steven personality started popping up like 2 months prior to the events of this show. How do you? And there was even a scene in the second, maybe the first or second episode, where Steven was like, "What do you mean it's not Friday? It's Sunday? Like, where do these 2 days go? Like, how do the two of them reconcile the passage of time when Jake had clearly gone off to get Harrow with Khonshu?"
I think that's kind of a big flaw of the show. There's kind of fun, quirky stuff that you do to kind of play up this mystery of like, what's going on here? It seems like he has this personality, but he has this personality. And why is there missing time? There's fun little things you do just to kind of entice the audience. But then when you watch it in retrospect, you're like, wait, I don't how's this working? And sometimes there's like a sound logic to it. But I think that with this show, it just was kind of inconsistent and a little confusing. Yeah. And like I said to you that what I liked the best about the show was the interactions between Mark and Steven. And you said it very perfectly where you said it's like a buddy cop and they essentially start to work together. I really like that. And I actually really liked Khonshu too, because I felt like they kind of captured the essence of modern Khonshu in the comics, where he's kind of like a trickster, kind of an asshole, but he does want
Yeah,
justice.
he has good intentions, but he goes about it in a kind of over the top way.
Yeah, like a corrupt way. It was kind of weird actually to see him like fighting, against Ahmed or whatever. It's like, it's like a little too like aggressive and heroic of him. He's kind of more like scheming and kind of cowardly in the comics too. But yeah, I just liked the interaction between those two. And then with Jake, it's like, okay, well, you just brought up all these holes in logic. That's where it kind of falls flat. But I did like the introduction of him at the very end there in the limousine. I thought that was a good post-credit scene.
Yeah, I think it's a good post-credit scene. But again, it largely depends on if there's more or not.
Yeah.
I mean, if this is a complete standalone and that's the end of it, that's not enough. I mean, it's simply not.
Yeah.
But there's if he can come back, whether it's in another season or something else, which I don't know what it could be, it leaves the door open for some potential growth.
Yeah, I agree. Well, so then let's talk about these MCU shows, right? Because I gave you the task of ranking them, right? Did you go ahead and rank the MCU shows?
I did.
Okay. Do you want to do your list first, or you want me to do mine?
Sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think this is pretty static the way it is. So, at number 6, I have What If. I liked What If, but it was very uneven, and although I guess it seems like it has more ramifications across the MCU than this show did.
Yeah.
I'm still putting it on the lower end here, but just for the fact that I don't know, maybe I actually prefer live action. I prefer live action to CG animation. Let's leave it at that.
Okay.
I had Moon Knight at 5.
Okay.
Generally speaking, underwhelmed. It's not bad, but underwhelmed. Though I would have liked to it have been longer or a different setting or something, or for it to connect to something. To me, the fact that they wanted it to stand on its own, the fact that they wanted its defining attribute that it stands on its own is not enough for me.
Okay.
I then have number 4, Falcon and Winter Soldier, 3, Loki, 2, WandaVision, 1, Hawkeye. I still stand that Hawkeye was the most satisfying series for me out of all these.
Whoa. Okay.
I know. We went through this last time because you didn't like Hawkeye at all.
Yeah,
I'm really curious because one of your points about Hawkeye was that was how it was trying to set up too many things, and now this doesn't set up anything. So I'm real curious to see how you interpret that.
Okay. Well, I feel a little weird giving my ranking now because like my number 6 is Moon Knight, and so like I just felt like it was underwhelming altogether, and I would have much rather had like a street level thing where it's a mystery about who is Moon Knight, versus like what's going on with these split personalities, and let's go have this Indiana Jones adventure. I'd like to maybe have had like an outsider person meet Moon Knight and be like, what the fuck's going on with this weirdo? And like learn more about him over 6 episodes.
Oh yeah, so perceive it through someone else's eyes. Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah.
Not like one of his other personalities, but like another person altogether. So then you bring up that point. Now I'm like, okay, well, I have Hawkeye as 5, and I think that the reason why it's 5 is because I liked Kate Bishop and Clint's interactions. But then, like, I just felt like there's too many pieces in it. Like, I liked that. I keep saying this, but I like the Mark and Steven interaction. But it is like kind of less ambitious. It's that standalone thing that you were just talking about, but still, just kind of underwhelming. I thought Loki. Once again, like just all these shows, it's just like they just feel like they're missing something. Like they're not giving me exactly what I need. They have great moments, but it's just not like this full satisfying story. But I liked Loki. I have What If higher than Loki just because there's some episodes I really liked. And I just like that idea of like this sort of Tales from the Crypt kind of like one-off story, but then it was all kind of tied together. There were some really weak stories, but otherwise I like them.
Yeah, I honestly think that had What If been a more traditional animated style, I would have loved it like 1,000 times more. I really have the hardest time with like CG animated shows. They just bother me. I just feel like you get so much more like background detail and world building and stuff with traditional animation. I just vastly prefer it.
Okay. Well, then that leaves me with your, like, what was it? Your number 5 pick? Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Or 4?
4.
Okay. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Maybe it's just because I just really love those characters in the comics and I really love the Winter Soldier movie so much. Like Bucky's one of my top 10 favorite characters. And I really love Sebastian Stan's portrayal of him. I really like Anthony Mackie. Of course, that show had flaws too. But then WandaVision as my number 1. And just, I think maybe, like you've said this a couple of times, that like maybe it was sort of like novel because it was like the first of these. And it also had that gimmick of the different shows. But I don't know. I just thought that it was like more exciting every week to tune in and then like, oh, what's going on? The ending was kind of disappointing though.
Yeah, that's the ending being disappointing was the pretty much the reason why I have Hawkeye over that. I was very satisfied with the ending of Hawkeye. So I think while it wasn't as original as the idea behind WandaVision, I was just overall more satisfied by the entire thing. I do agree that there might have been too much in it. I think we even said like maybe they could have just like completely cut out Echo and it would have been better for it.
Right.
Who knows? But yeah.
Cool. Well, I also told you to put in the shows within the Marvel MCU ranking, but I think we should save that for our Doctor Strange discussion.
Yeah, because I didn't do that part.
Okay, good. Perfect. So we always do our MCU ranking when there's a new movie. And so Multiverse of Madness is in theaters now. Brian and I are going to see it. Next Thursday, we just have Young Justice. There's no other show. So we're going to do Young Justice, and then we're going to do Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So are you excited about that, my man?
Very excited. Haven't been to the theater for a Marvel movie since December. So,
I'm excited for you, man. Yeah, I live in Texas, and we're crazy. So, like, I've seen Shang-Chi and Eternals and Black Widow. I've seen all of them in the fucking theater.
Oh, but, no. I mean, I haven't like, I just, it's been 4 months basically. I saw all those in the theater. Actually, not Black Widow, but I saw all those in the theater except for Black Widow. But I just mean it's been a few months.
Oh, okay. I should probably listen to you since you're my co-host. That'd probably be a good thing. But anyway, if this is the first time you guys have watched us, please like and subscribe. We love hearing what you guys have to say. We did this for the first time on Twitch. Who knows what the fuck that looks like? I'm going to go check it out after this. But welcome. You can follow us on Twitter. We got our little handles there. And we will be back next Thursday to talk about some more Young Justice